I'm just going to, ooh, okay, this is so fancy. We're going live on YouTube. This is new. I'm just going to. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Can see people are starting to pile in, which is super exciting. Welcome, Maribeth. I don't know if we've ever met before, but super happy that you're here. We're just going to chit chat while people kind of pile in to the waiting room. And Jillian is here if you have not ever met her before. She's going to be leading us on a somatic kind of, I guess, grounding exercise. How would you explain what we're about to do after kind of the introduction?
Yeah, just like that. It'll ground you into yourself, the present moment, and sharing space with each other. So
yeah. Okay. I'm so excited for this. Can you hear me okay? Can everyone hear me okay? Yes. Incredible. Okay, awesome. I want to make sure that China and Meg can join as well before we really get going. But how's your day going, Jillian? Oh, hey, Megan.
Hey, Leah. Hi, Jill.
Joining us with the like on-brand wide brim hat.
Yes, and it's mostly an accommodation because the lights are too bright.
Yeah, I feel I've got my cozy blanket here, which is like my accommodation for the chills and the nervousness. So
yes. Well, I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited as well. We're just gonna kind of chit chat until people file in, but we're also going live on YouTube, which is new and fun. So
that's so fun.
I also love like the Rachel-esque hair going on again.
Oh, you talking to me?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm really just feeling myself today. It's a good day to be on camera. I don't normally look like this.
Either.
Yeah, I literally said to Leah, I was like, I gotta get my cute outfit on. I'll be right back.
I showered this morning for the occasion. I'm like, I gotta look right today. So.
You know what? I haven't like washed my hair in days and I'm kind of feeling it. My curls are going to look amazing the next time I actually do wash my hair. Welcome. Hi, China. So nice to see you.
Hi, China. I'm Megan.
Hey, Megan. Hi, Jill.
How are you doing today, China? How are things going?
Pretty good. Just starting my day. It's a little early over here.
Yeah. You're on the West Coast. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Thank you so much for making time like early in your morning.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
Where are you located, China?
I'm in LA.
Oh, nice. Okay. I'm in Chicago.
Got you.
Yeah.
How about you, Jill?
And Jill is from Hamilton.
Okay. Is that in Ontario?
Yeah, it's an hour from Toronto.
Oh, nice. Okay. Cool. I've never even been to your beautiful province of Ontario. I've only ever been to Montreal and British Columbia.
And I love that you say Montreal with like the correct accent and everything.
I know. I'm so sorry. I'm bilingual, so I can't say it in the English way.
Good.
Bilingual and multi-talented.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Well, okay, I'm just watching people who are attending kind of pile in. So welcome. If you guys have never met me before, I guess we can get started now. So my name is Lea, and I am the creative director and owner of Arc Design Studio, which is a Shopify experience design shop. We do everything from branding to web development to marketing for small businesses in the product space. And I am also newly discovered neurodivergent, on a bit of a journey to kind of, biohack, optimize my life, connect with others in the community. And I kind of started on this more or less journey of discovery. When I was much younger, I was hit by a vehicle as a pedestrian. I broke both of my legs and I was wheelchair bound for 4.5 months. One of our one of our panelists today, Jill, can kind of relate to this situation. I think she's going to share a little bit more, whatever she's comfortable with. But I actually kind of fell into my career and kind of a luck of the draw, or not lucky, I guess you could say, from this accident. One of my first close friends, I met online through a Yahoo chat room, which really shows you how old I actually am. But she was quadriplegic, and we kind of had a fairly similar experience, but unfortunately she was not able to recover from her car accident. And she passed away when she was 21. I never got to meet her in person, but I just remember the feeling of connection that I got with that person, who was one of my first close friends I met on the internet. And that to this day continues to be one of my favorite parts of my job, and why I want to offer free events like this is to connect with incredible women all over the world, hear their stories, hear kind of the messier parts of business, and destigmatize some of the issues that we all deal with day to day. So I'm super excited for you guys to meet everyone who is kind enough to give their time today. Remember that everything you're going to hear today is going to come from 4 very unique women who have their own varied lived experiences. They have their own underlying struggles, mental health barriers, neurodivergence or trauma, and situational nuances that comes into play with their perspective. You may not have the full context behind all of their opinions, and we are not creating a space to unpack or resolve those things. It's more just to expose the thoughts and have a really great conversation out of it. So I want to remind everyone that this is intended to be a safe space and to reveal the humanness of our experiences. And it's with the intention of creating meaningful, genuine connection, not to unpack, process, or treat some of these things that we're about to tell you. So for this reason, as you hear the anecdotes that everyone is going to share here, I would love it if you could use the chat, whether you're on YouTube or here in Zoom, to say if you find something super relatable or insightful that you're hearing. But I would ask you to please avoid giving your particular tips or advice on how you would have handled a certain situation or something, because you could really be bypassing that person's entire lived experience. And that is just not where I want this to go. So everyone here on the panel, Jill, Megan, and China, again, thank you so much for giving your time to this. Because there is 3 of you, and I do want to leave lots of room for the conversations we're about to have. Sometimes the topics we get into don't go fully explored. And so that just means we'll have to get back together again and do this, or invite people on your social channels to engage with you further and explore that topic more deeply. So while you're listening, if you're in the audience or the panelists here, I'd love it if you would share this on social media. It's not too late for anyone to join live on YouTube or here on Zoom. So just snap a pic. I believe that you have all of our consent to share our likeness online, and tag my account at Arc Shopify Studio, and share your information as well in the chat if you would like to connect with some of the other people here inside of the group. So before we get super deep into the conversations, I know I'm super nervous. I'm also dealing with a migraine. And so I'm really excited that Jillian from Jilly With It, who I'm going to get to, the chat is disabled. That is no bueno. Everyone. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that you guys have all this info. Okay, and here, let me know if you guys can see this, all the tags and all that stuff. And if you have a question, there is a Q&A box. So I would love it for you to just drop any thoughts you have in the Q&A box, and then we can kind of track anything that is question to answer at the end of the session. But let's get back on track with where I was going. Now that we know the chat is disabled, thank you, Megan. Jillian is going to lead a somatic exercise. I have no idea what to expect. So I'm hoping that this will all put us in a really nice, calm, grounded space and ready to dive in. So I will mute myself, and Jillian, you can kick us off.
Yay! I'm so excited to be here, and thank you, Leah, for hosting this. I am so excited to cultivate more community. So you can do this standing up or seated, whatever is your capacity today. I'm going to actually stand up, so let me move my chair. So really, can you still hear me from here? Yeah? Okay, cool. So somatics, if you're new to somatics, which a lot of people are, it's kind of become a little bit of a buzzword, but it's actually based in neuroscience, and it's all about cultivating the body-mind connection. And in our world today, we're really like intellectually based. So this returns us back to ourselves and helps us live on our own terms, not the capitalist yes. So really, before I get started, I want to honor the lineages of this practice. So I have had the privilege to learn from generative somatics, somatics experiencing, Strauss Institute, and somatic soul coach school. But somatics themselves have a really long ancient and indigenous tradition that spans up many cultures. So I just wanted to make sure we're paying homage and honoring those communities. So really what we'll do to get started is just notice your surroundings, maybe identify 3 items in your space. And once you've done that, bringing your attention to your body. And you can close your eyes if that feels comforting, let that feel safe, or perhaps a soft gaze. And then really tuning in to your inner landscape, noticing how the breath moves throughout the body. Notice any emotions present. If that judgmental mind comes in saying, oh, hey, I see you. And noticing what bodily sensations are here as well. Might be a temperature or tingling. Perhaps you might even feel a breeze or draft. Perhaps you can notice some different sounds in your area, near and far. Really tapping into our senses. And if you are standing, I invite you to have your feet about hip distance apart. If you're sitting, just stay where you are. When you found a comfortable, supportive position, I invite you to place your hand, or both hands, one hand, on your center, which for a lot of people, it is right below the belly button, but it might be a different place for you. So just making contact with this space, maybe exploring with some different pressure or rubbing, adding. So this practice is called centering. We're going to connect to our length, width, and depth today. So once you've found the center, I invite you to elongate your torso, finding a nice supportive alignment of the spine. You might notice that inherently your neck elongates and your chin might elevate. Allowing the shoulders to soften. And simultaneously, while you're finding this length, grounding into the earth and allowing gravity to hold you. So we're growing towards the sun and connecting to something greater than ourselves. And then we're rooting down into the present moment. Perhaps softening our joints in the knees if you're standing. This is a posture of integrity. So I invite you to try integrity on in this moment. And that might mean a heart opening, chest rising, shoulders back. I invite you to notice your own dignity and also the dignity of the people here today, sharing space with us, showing up for ourselves. Now we're going to explore our width. So here I'd like to invite you to bring your ear to your shoulder, whatever side comes naturally. Nice long stretch here. And then I invite you to explore the other side. And you can find some rolling movement here if that feels supportive. We can come back to center. Really listening to your body and allowing that to direct your movement. Taking a few more breaths here. And then I invite you to bring your arms open into a T. And then you can explore this space, what that means to you. You can look at your hands, watch them extend to each side. Ooh, I see some hugging action. I'm into that. Yes, give yourself a hug. Opening up to the side body, and then maybe like bending with our hip, making the posture more exaggerated, stretching through the side body. And then we can experiment with sitting on each side, you know, sending our weight into the right or left, perhaps swaying. And this is the area of connection, right? We're like reaching out and connecting to others. We're building relationships. And we begin to notice the space that we take up, our boundaries. And finally, our depth. So our depth, there's the front, middle, and back. So first we'll experiment with the back. So bringing your awareness to the back body, your shoulders, inviting them to soften if there's space for that. Resting into the back body, the spine, your booty, the back of your legs. When we think of the back body, this is our past, our ancestors and lineage, evolution. And I invite you to rock back on your feet if you're standing, or just lean back if you're sitting. And notice what it feels like to just be here. Be here in this reclined space. And then coming back to center. Bring your awareness to your heartbeat. Again, inviting in contact if that feels supportive. Noticing our breath. Perhaps there's some gurgling of our digestion. Really getting curious about the middle of our body and all of these processes and organs communicating and working together to help you breathe, that brought you here. Finding that sweet spot of that center. And your depth is all about choice, purpose, presence. So if you were to embody one of those words, what would that look and feel like in this moment? And bringing your awareness to the front of the body. So you may have contact with it already. The front of the face where we express ourselves. The space in front of us. What are we looking at? What are we longing for? What are we reaching for? What's within our grasp? And I invite you to lean forward. If you're standing, rocking forward with your feet, and if you're sitting, just leaning. Noticing what that feels like. And then coming back to center. Making note of how you felt a few moments ago versus now.
Definitely feel a lot lighter. I don't know if anyone else really enjoyed that. Are you feeling a lot more centered?
Oh my
Thank you, Jillian. Amazing. So really appreciate you kind of getting us into the mood. I do want to make sure that we totally respect everyone's time here. And I do want to jump right into the conversation now that I've had the full body tingles. My neck is all stretched out. So Jillian, I want you to just kind of, introduce yourself, and then exactly kind of why we just went through that, and hopefully what everyone should be feeling right now. And then I'm going to go into the first question with Megan. How does that sound?
Right.
Okay, awesome.
So, hello, I'm Jill. I am a brand strategist and web designer. I'm also a wellness entrepreneur as well. So I went on this big journey for about 10 years into wellness, and I ended up at Somatics. And why I love Somatics is because it allows you to build resilience in our world that is not meant for us to thrive. I'm just going to put it plainly like that. It helps us tune into ourselves and really connect with other people in the way that we want to. And we can often feel unbalanced and see the body as maybe not our friend. So Somatics has really helped me and a lot of other people connect back to our bodies and understand that our bodies can actually be an ally. And there's so much wisdom and information that our bodies are sending to us and communicating with us all the time. We've just forgotten how to listen to those little whispers. So it helps you tune in, and there's so many benefits. I'll list them later on. And of course, if you have any questions, just ask a question. But really today I wanted to practice centering. This is a really foundational technique, and that's a great way to get started.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for that. I love that you said like listening to your body and trying to figure out a way to make that kind of your strength. So I think that's a really good segue into this conversation about neurodivergence and like going on that journey of discovering, I kind of am a little bit different. I don't know exactly what's going on, and I would like to figure out ways to operate better in the world from this more centered and grounded space. So I wanted to invite Meg up first to chat about this. Hi, Megan.
Hey, Lea.
So I would love, Meg, if you could introduce yourself with a one-liner, and I have dropped in the chat already where people can find you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, everyone. I'm Megan Baker. I'm the founder of Meg K & Co. We are a hiring agency for socially conscious businesses. So we work with small businesses a lot like Jill in China. I've worked with Lea before, and we use a DE&I lens in our hiring. And I'm based out of Chicago.
Amazing. So we've had a lot of conversations on Instagram, and Jillian actually mentioned this to me as well in our conversation together, but there's a lot of people in the online space who are neurodivergent, whether they know it or not. Mm-hmm. And I know that you have been so transparent and recently kind of shared about learning that your daughter actually has autism and has been diagnosed. And that has actually opened your eyes to finding out things about yourself that you've kind of known all of your life, but, finding more compassion throughout that journey and all the accommodations that you need to operate best in the world. So can you just tell me a little bit about your journey that you went on with your daughter and how that's kind of manifested into discovering more about yourself too?
Yeah. The funny thing about autism, especially in like women or femme people, is that it's quite misunderstood because we have kind of one way of viewing it. But my daughter was delayed in speech, but could like recite the alphabet. So some people thought she was fine, but we realized that she had some delays. So we were lucky to get her into private speech therapy and occupational therapy. We did end up getting her a medical diagnosis that it was hard for me to process, mostly because the organization that gave it to her, while I believe I need this medical diagnosis as a tool to get her more supports, especially in the public education system here in the US. It can also be kind of stigmatizing, and I had to listen to a clinician be very ableist and push a therapy that I do not agree with. It's a bit of a capitalist venture, and then hearing that my daughter's going to need special education, I'm seeing a lot of internalized ableism in myself as well, but also understanding that she is neurodivergent. I personally have diagnosed ADHD. I'm self-diagnosed autistic after suspecting for about a year and learning through my daughter. But all kids kind of have their quirks. And while I used to feel some kind of way about Eleanor's, I love the way that she sees the world. And even though she's different, I think that's what makes her so special. And that helps me. I see so much of myself in her, and this beautiful, brazen little person is really highlighting all these qualities about her that I love in myself too. And we have a lot of fun together. She's made a lot of progress in her therapies, and I'm not trying to get her to be like everyone else, but more like herself, and be able to learn accommodations in her occupational therapy that's going to help her, and learn how to communicate. And we're learning the way that she processes language, and we can meet her where she is. And also I have to plug that I threw a rager three-nager birthday party for her with a bounce house. But the theme was just kind of meeting everyone where they were at, even kids who are neurotypical. Like, not all of them were big enough for the bounce house. So I had like a table with stickers and just non-alcoholic drinks and alcoholic drinks. Like, I just want to meet everyone where they're at. And I love the way that my daughter sees the world and experiences things. And she's so vibrant, and it's teaching me that my perspective is also valuable. And I love our points of view, and I'm scared about some of the like stigmas and complications that are going to come from being disabled.
Especially dealing with it yourself, right? Like,
yeah.
Experiencing it as an adult. Yeah.
And the United States is pretty hostile towards disabled people. So, it's been a journey, but, she's kind of reconnected me to my inner vibrancy that I've been masking for so many years.
So beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. By the way, I wanted to honor that.
Thank you.
But I love how that you also brought up just like ableism in the workplace. I know, going through many different companies, I have been overlooked for a lot of opportunities, ostracized by a lot of my peers for things that make me different, but also are a bit of like my superpower. But there's also like things that I struggle with. And I know that we've talked about this, making typos in emails. My brain works faster than my hands do. And it doesn't occur to me to like proofread everything, because I just don't think it's as important as other things. Or making up words that don't exist sometimes. I don't know if anyone else is guilty for that. But one of my first employers actually like I said, ostracized me in front of my peers for things like this. Even went to like my university for a presentation on what it's like actually working in the real world a year after graduation, and like made fun of me in front of that entire group of people. It's horrible. So, inherent ableism is very entrenched in the workplace. And I'd love for you if you could kind of share some of those experiences that you have had previously, knowing that this can be like a touchy subject.
I've had people overlook me, or I see them coming to judgments about me because of typos, or like the most offensive thing that I did in my job ad was that I didn't have the spacing correct, and then ended up not hiring me for future projects, but actually hiring a contractor that I had hired under me before because they were quote unquote more professional. So those aren't my people. I missed out on like work opportunities. And I internalized that I was like bad. But then it's really about, if I really need to not have typos, building in the time, or, whatever accommodations, but I also just don't care. I think a lot of that stuff is prescribed and like based in white supremacy. And I just decided I don't really care as much. And that's a privileged point of view for me, but I've definitely had people come to make assumptions about me and my intelligence. And when I really look at it, like you said, Lea, a lot of these neurodivergence, while they can be hindrances in like this very neurotypical world, the people who value me and see me for me, see how innovative that I've been in my business and how influential I've been, and can overlook the typos.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if that's what you're offended about, then I don't know, we're just probably not meant to work with one another.
Totally. I feel like a lot of things that I overlook, I'm just like, you know what? This is not as important as this other thing on my to-do list. Like, you know what I was trying to say. Don't be a jerk about it.
Right. And we can always edit it later. Like,
exactly.
who cares?
Totally. I know like a lot of these things too, like these situations that we come across, like you said, internalize it. When you have not had a diagnosis, especially like later on in life, maybe you're in that situation where you're being interviewed for a new job or you're in a new role and you're kind of struggling to perform. I'm curious as to like, this is off script, but I'm curious as to like your perspective of how you can kind of figure out, you know, is what I'm struggling with a mental illness, just something I need to work on as a neurotypical person, or is this actual neurodivergence? So I guess what I'm asking is like, what are some things you would say to caution people not to self-diagnose? Like, what are the dangers there? But how can that actually be helpful to people?
I'm not a doctor or anything, but I would say stay curious and try different accommodations and see if they help you. And then listen to the experiences. Not saying you should go on Instagram to self-diagnose, but keep an open mind and listen to the experiences of people. And like, I would say try different accommodations. And if it's not working and you cannot help yourself with the resources you have, then seek external support.
Totally. There's so much like crap on Instagram right now, like going on reels, and every reel is trying to convince you have ADHD. It's just,
yeah, but I'll tell you what,
level.
I've learned so much from the autistic educators that are on there, and while I would caution people to not overdiagnose yourself, like there's also something so incredibly validating about feeling a belonging to a community when you felt so different your whole entire life. And on the outside, I appear like don't have any disabilities, that I'm fine. But when I can actually acknowledge that I work so hard just with all of the things that go inside in my head that people cannot see, and that a lot of like diagnosis and like clinical stuff is very ableist and just based on like observations of neurotypical people, I can mask really well. But having an explanation for why I legit feel like an alien sometimes. I tell my husband, just pretend like I'm an alien and teach me how human beings do things. On our anniversary card, he said like, hello, Megan, on our planet, we celebrate our anniversaries. We've been married 6 times around the sun. And I'm like, thank you. But I can have more compassion for myself and let myself take a nap if I need it. And my superpowers are that I can be very productive more than our neurotypical counterparts when I feel like it, when I have the executive function for it. Sorry, that was more maybe promotional of seeking diagnoses, but definitely be cautious about it. But I will say, if you do find something that fits, it can make you feel a belonging and just explain so much.
Yeah. And it's something like worth exploring. But there is like the dangers that come with it too, of the attention seeking thing, which is maybe related to something else. But I love that you were talking about like, you know, feeling like an alien.
I do this all the time.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. So I feel like that's a really good segue to kind of the next thing is, you know, real invisible illness is a real thing. And sometimes when you feel like you're a prisoner inside your own body and you're doing that masking, which I feel like I spent my entire professional career masking all of my symptoms of my inattentiveness or manic episodes or things like that. And just feeling like such an outsider in every environment that I was in. So I know that a lot of us often don't understand what is happening internally. And, you know, a lot of the struggles you're facing could be related to an invisible illness, whether it's a real disability, syndrome, deficit, disorder. Sometimes they take root from physical trauma. as well through what happens to us in our life. I know that was my experience going through a life-altering accident when I was hit by a car when I was 12 years old. And so the next person I want to reintroduce, I guess, is Jill, who has a similar experience to me that I teased earlier. So Jill, you so graciously shared with me in our conversation that you also had this feeling of, being a prisoner inside of your own body. I can't tell you how much I relate to that, and how much time I also spent like basically dealing with that thing in my body. I just felt like I didn't belong anywhere. So would you be open to sharing your experience, and what kind of symptoms have you noticed about yourself, and how have you coped with them now after this experience that you've had?
Hey, Jill, you're muted.
Yeah, I was like, I'm unmuted still. Thank you, Leah. Yeah, so when I was 18, again, this is a lot of energy to hold as well, so I just want to be mindful of that. I was run over by a bus. So it was quite a gruesome experience, and it was actually around my school. So everyone saw it, and my whole school ended up having to have counseling. It's very public, and I think that was part of what helped me, like what contributed to me feeling like not myself, is that it was so public, and I just became like the girl that got run over by the bus, and I lost the other part of Jill. And I was like a very, very active person. And I honestly think that's why I survived. And so when I was like bedridden, I like really bad road burn. I broke my femur and my tibia. I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself. My poor mom had to take care of my poop again. And I really had to rely on these people taking care of me, which I didn't love. And so I felt like I was trapped in that hospital bed in the wheelchair. And it really became a time to rediscover who I am beyond this person who can walk and talk, and how can I relate in a different way? How can I communicate in a different way? And so that was like the big accident. And I've had a few concussions, and that eventually I have a diagnosis of post-concussion syndrome. So I basically am like stuck with a concussion all the time. It's been more than 3 years, and that's typically when you meet your what's the word I'm looking for, the term?
The plateau.
Plateau, yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So basically I have a concussion all the time, which means things like a headache, nerve pain, and it goes all the way down through my arm. I have trouble focusing. I also have trouble like forming words sometimes, or finding ways to articulate myself. And I wrote a list so I wouldn't forget. Memory is another thing.
Same here.
The other tinnitus, trouble focusing on sounds and like being distracted by sounds. So like if I'm at a cafe and there's like a conversation happening behind me and my friend's trying to talk to me, I can't really focus on that. Mm-hmm. And what else? Oh, and generally like in the beginning, because I hadn't found like how I could live with this, I didn't have these tools. My mental health was just, I could like flip like a switch. My temper was really bad. Like I've never experienced, my poor partner. Oh, like it was an adjustment for him too. And like he has a pretty like wide perspective because his little brother has Down syndrome, but this was like completely new, right? So my mental health was worse. I could not regulate my emotions.
Yeah, been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What tools have you put in your tool belt to kind of help you cope with all of these things? Because I know like Megan was like nodding her head, like the noise thing, working in an open office, working in a coffee shop is like no go. I have to work with full silence all day to focus on anything. So what are some of like the coping tools that you have kind of collected to be able to cope in the last few years?
Yeah, I have so many tools in my toolbox. I actually worked at a mental health nonprofit for a while, so I learned a lot from there. Literally, you can have a toolbox and you can have like sensory items. So like an ice pack or what's like silly putty, bringing you back into yourself if you're really, caught in an emotion.
Like grounding tools.
Yeah, grounding tools. I spoke to you about this, Leah, loop earplugs. I tried to get a code for y'all, but they were like, it's on our social media and they have no discount codes are going on right
Of course.
Loop earplugs, I got them a few years ago and they've actually come down in price. So I really recommend those. They block out a certain amount of sound, so you're able to actually focus. There's some that are designed for ADHD. There's some like for musicians. Like it's really a really great tool that I use like almost all the time. Whenever I'm not at home, I have my earplugs in.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing some of those. I know that there's so many that we could get into, and it's kind of cool like going down the rabbit hole to find like products and like practices and all of these things that we can use to recenter ourselves. And I think it's really interesting how, once you have like had this awareness of something's a bit different, here's what makes me feel better. It's really, really easy to like get into this trend of being super attuned to the needs that we have, that sometimes we become so wrapped up in our journey, it becomes pretty easy to bypass the needs of others. And especially if you're neurotypical and like all of this is like Greek to you, you like have never experienced any of this. It's hard to identify. And I know that there's a question in the Q&A already of someone who is kind of curious about this. So I wanted to pivot. I think this is a good pivot to introduce you to China. So China, could you introduce yourself with a one-liner to the audience?
Hey y'all, I'm China and my pronouns are she, they, and I run One Fourth the Studio. We do web design and branding.
Amazing. Thank you. We chatted briefly about creating an environment where your clients feel safe and you create an inclusive space. And I thought that that was so insightful and so brilliant, because as business owners, I find it really hard to create that environment of open communication where your client, who is supposed to be your co-collaborator, feels confident revealing that potential about themselves, or if you're interviewing someone in the workplace without directly asking, are you disabled? Like how can I be of most support to you? So can you tell me a little bit about your experience as a business owner, why you felt that this was important to you, and you've put such a focus on advocacy, and how you've been able to kind of cultivate this environment of inclusivity for yourself and your clients?
Yeah. So I think that before anyone works with us, the way that we show up online and in business is very clear about our values and how we approach business. And I think that is kind of, that sets the foundation right before anyone works with us. But then also when they actually meet me, they're surprised to work with me and find that I'm very patient and very empathetic and, all of these things. And I think when people think of advocates, they think of very tough or resilient or outspoken people. And while that's important, I also think, being on the gentler side is also as important, right? So personality, but then I do have some tips for folks that I'll kind of run through really quickly, because just in case we don't have time. But one, we created a visual client dashboard that doesn't require a tech login or sign up. We color coded the links, and I'm happy to share a screenshot or even share my screen. We broke down everything in a checklist format. So I found that this was really helpful for folks just to see like where we're at in the process and kind of what to expect. We also have a welcome kit, and in that welcome kit, it's essentially a PDF, but there's a section on communication and things to expect. We include this paragraph, which I'll drop in the chat in case anyone wants to use it too. But essentially it says, if you need accommodations for communication, please reach out. We're always working on being as inclusive as possible for access needs. And for example, if you need voice messages or other means of communication, please don't hesitate to let us know what's best for you. I think this kind of opens the door without having to say like, hey, like what's, do you need anything special? And it kind of takes the pressure off a little bit. I also feel like in the online business space, a lot of folks talk about boundaries and, making sure that clients don't have your phone number or, only doing email during certain hours. And sometimes that doesn't work for all clients. Like I do establish my boundaries as, I work these hours, but, if you want to send me a voice note, if you'd rather chat it out on the phone, I get it. Not everyone is also as tech savvy, and that's why we're web designers, right? We're here to like make that accessible. So that's another way. I also, whenever I do a webinar, I try to have sign language interpreters. And this is kind of aside from neurodivergence, this is going into the bigger scheme of like, ableism and stuff like that. And like, I will ask folks if it's in the budget to include a sign interpreter. On the other side, like on our side, we've also added time into our timelines for like self-care and also for care of family members. And then, yeah, I think just making it in general a very safe space to ask for accommodations and having proactive communication. Transparency from our side has also been really nice in letting folks know, like, you know what, sometimes web design, it's not the end of the world. Like if we have to push it, sometimes that happens. We're not, like I used to work in an inpatient pharmacy in a hospital and I had to order like chemo and very serious drugs. That was like life altering. This work that I do now is not.
Mhm.
So yeah, just being really clear about that and like decolonizing what we think this urgency really needs to be. So
Totally. I love that you just like brought it back to it's all about perspective, right? Like nothing that we do, we're not saving babies here. I love that. That's so, so important. So I actually wanted to bring it back to Meg because this conversation of like creating that openness, I think a lot of it just starts from a first conversation. And Meg, as a recruiter, you talk to so many people all the time. Can you tell me, like, because your business, you do things a little bit differently, which I find so fascinating as like an ethical business focus. So can you tell me, like, how did you become attuned to kind of the needs and quirks of others kind of so effortlessly? Like I've been on the client side of your work and being able to hear firsthand from people who've worked with you, just felt it was such a joyful experience. And like, I would love to be able to bleed that into the client experience as well. But my question is like, what are the common things you notice in strangers when you're working with diverse groups so frequently?
I really start with kind of like with the raging birthday party I threw for my 3-year-old, meeting everyone where they're at, or how China does with their clients of meeting people where they are and accommodating where they are. So when I try to set up my relationship with candidates in a transparent way. So letting them know everything to expect. So like in the emails that they get, if we decide to interview them, letting them know like what exactly there is to expect. And I think a lot of it has to do with my own need to have transparency and understand what's happening. But also I want people to feel seen and heard. And I appreciate when people do the same for me. And I think a lot of it too is some of these formalities that they do, I think can be exclusive, especially to marginalized groups. So anyway, I need to actually answer your question. But what I do is I listen, and I start the conversation with trying to find common ground with people, usually like, where are you from? And I can just kind of get a sense of their comfort level. And if I need to do extra scaffolding of questions, if I see that they seem nervous, or they're not like fully going into the question, or maybe understanding some of those like nuances that in some of my admittedly loaded questions, I'll break it down for them. Or, I'll be like, oh, I hear you saying this, and kind of help bridge the gaps a little bit. So like back to my like teaching education, that's called scaffolding, like just literally like scaffolds, just like giving extra support. And I like to go into all of my conversations with an open mind and wanting it to be a good experience, and just genuinely wanting to understand the person. And it's part of my neurodivergence, but I love getting to the bottom of things. But like, I like to deeply understand people, but in a way that, that they feel comfortable. And I just genuinely like talking to people.
I love that. I hope that answers your question, Gary, of like, how do you approach?
Oh,
like,
sorry, Gary.
No, that's totally fine.
Yeah, I would say just keep an open mind. Like, you don't want to necessarily be like, hey kid, are you neurodivergent? I've tried that. And some people are like, I don't think so. And I'm like, oh, well, I see a lot of myself in you. So good luck. So I don't say that anymore. But yeah, I think like any sort of accommodations you can give, or like, I don't know, offer to help them out if it seems. Just stay open and stay in tune to their needs if it seems like they might want some extra help or compassion.
Mm-hmm, totally. So sometimes not answering like or asking directly. If you have an inkling, just try and pivot and move, fluidly with that person, and just be curious instead of trying to diagnose people on the spot and be reactive. So okay, so we're almost at the end of the time. If anyone here who's still here has any questions, definitely drop them in the Q&A box, and we'll see if we can get some time at the end to answer a question or two. Otherwise, I'll answer them on Instagram. But I know that we came here to talk about accommodations specifically, and we've kind of revealed a couple of them. Megan, you're wearing your wide brim hat to block out the light.
And the lights are off in this room where I'm at. So,
I know that like I was never able to thrive in like an open office environment, never having control over any element, whether it's the sound, the temperature, the people who are coming and going, the smells coming in from the kitchen. So I'd love to know, this is just an open question for all of you, for China, Jill, and Megan. What are some accommodations that you have given yourself or given others that are a little bit atypical from like the norm, let's say? Who wants to go first?
I can start. I have my employee has told me that they're neurodivergent. So as long as the work gets done, and they have migraines sometimes too. So I give them flexibility of their schedule. The work gets done and it gets done really well. So that's one accommodation that I make for my employee.
Yeah, I love that. I have noticed when I have migraines or anything, like I do my best work 10 to 2, and I have to take a siesta, a nap, like, 2, and then I until like 5, 6, and then I do my best work 7 to midnight when no one's bothering me. That would just not be a possibility in a typical 9 to 5. Jill, you unmuted. Did you have a quirky one that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I have a whole list, but I will actually like share this with people if they're interested. I have to literally set alarms for my breaks. That's the only way I can like actually take a break. So yeah. I hope that's helpful to someone.
Yeah, time invisibility and like time blindness is a real thing. That's also something I struggle with. I have one of those. I can't show it to you right now because it's like mounted to the wall, but like an Amazon clock that has like the red like piece that like wipes away as time passes, and that reminds me when I need to take a break because I'll go hours without eating or doing anything. China, this is like in your genius zone. I'd love to hear your perspective of things you do for yourself and others.
Oh my gosh. I wish I was better to myself. Let's see. Honestly, I think just being really flexible on time also, like if I'm feeling depressed or I need to take a day off, I will just do it, and I'll tell clients like, "Hey, I'm not feeling well. You might not hear from me for a couple days." And it's proactive communication, really. Um, but also, I have a partner that has recently been diagnosed with trigeminal neuralgia, and so there's been a lot of like medical stuff with that we're navigating together, and there's a lot of appointments, and so I'll be in and out of office all day pretty much. So yeah, working late, sometimes that's what it is. I don't know what else though. I think just timelines, giving a lot of spaciousness to things. I think that's it.
Yeah, that's something I have to like proactively schedule in my calendar is like, okay, I've been working for 3.5 months. I need a week off or even 2 days, or just buffer time in all of my timelines for the unexpected of having illness. So I love that so much. We had so much other stuff that we wanted to cover, but I just did want to wrap this up on time. So I hope that you guys all enjoyed this conversation. There's so much more that we could dig into. I actually find something like really interesting is that this session was not as well attended live as the last one was, because I think it's not quite as spicy as the last topic was, but I think that this is a lot more important. So really encourage everyone here, if you related to any of this, I would love to see you in my inbox. I'm sure everyone here would love to connect as well to keep the conversation going. Whether you're here live, you're watching the replay on YouTube, I would love for you to ask a question, inspire the next topic. I'm going to be doing these roundtables monthly and inviting up women and men and everyone else from all other walks of life to come on these sessions and just share their experiences. So if you have a question, I'll try and respond on Instagram later, but keep an eye on your inbox from me, because our next topic for next month's roundtable is going to be about going from a DE-wire, so do everything yourselfer, to being a better delegator in your business so that you can grow and expand and scale without having a huge and expensive team. So if you're interested in that, I'd love for you to just reach out and see if that's something you would love to chat with me here live in the group. But otherwise, thank you guys so much, ladies, gents, for being here. I really appreciate your time. If you have anything else you'd love to share, drop it in the chat. I'll make sure that people get it on all of the channels. And I will see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lea.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Bye, friends.
Bye.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much.